So shallowing the club is golf's newest, if you like, sexiest term. It's been around for a while, but it's what pretty much all golfers need to do. Now, not all golfers do need to shallow the club. Obviously, if you want to fade the ball, or if you're too shallow already, then obviously you don't need to shallow the club at all. There are options. The key is to match up what you do to give you the ball flight you want. What we see with the better players in the world generally is the club will shallow in this transition area to a position that's probably what we class as above plane. What that means in simple terms is, if you imagine I've got a line through the ball on my ball to target line, as I start down, this shaft will point above that line. That is a slightly above plane position. What I like to see with most of my golfers is this club run roughly through your mid of your bicep and this shaft line point just above the ball to target line. That for me would be a good checkpoint. Now, if this club is in a steeper position, in that position there, you will have to then shallow it late on to make good contact on the ball by early extending and raising the handle. Those two things give you less low point control and less club face control, but you can still be a functional golfer with those things. If your timing's right, timing's good, you can be successful. What I'd like you to be is be more automatic through these moves and more rotational through these moves, so that allows you to control that club face and low point with more ease. So the more we can get the club in that shallow position, the more it will help, generally. So let's go through a few ways and descriptions in detail of how you shallow the club and what shallowing the club is. Before we get there, I am a big fan of obviously the backswing. If the backswing is in the wrong position, automatically you will not want to shallow the club. I'm not going to talk too much about the backswing today, but I also want to put that statement in so you don't think I'm all about any backswing will work. It won't. We have to have things that match up to make the backswing and downswing to get into that shallow position. So let's go through the shallowing elements. So if I take my setup to a golf ball here and go to the top of my backswing, and if I wanted to shallow the club from there, what is actually happening to make that move? So initially, if I let this left arm, what we call pronate, which is rotating, if you think about my elbow is going more towards the sky, so to the ground, to the sky, the shaft changes its orientation, its pitch. If I do that and increase the flexion on my lead wrist, which is bowing this wrist, the shaft also wants to change into a slightly shallow position, and the club head drops down a little bit more behind me with gravity. Gravity makes it want to go more this way. Kind of what happens with the arm. So we could do the opposite with the trail arm. The trail arm will go into more external rotation, and the trail wrist goes into more extension. So again, if I'm here at the top of the backswing, and my trail arm goes in the same moves, you'll see here the shallowing action happens. Obviously at the moment, it's not working down at all. So the down action kind of comes with a little bit of right side bend. If the right side bend continues too long, I will then end up two from the inside at this position, and I'll struggle to get the club on the ball. I'll want to hit it fat, thin, and away from the inside. So the guys who are over the top, obviously they can feed that quite a lot. They can feed a lot more right side bend to get the club more from the inside. A lot of good golfers will have too much right side bend and therefore need to rotate and relocate back to the golf ball and make sure that pressure is shifting to make sure they get back to the ball. One last element at the top of the swing here. The top of the swing here, if I make a lateral move with my hips, that automatically gives me a little bit of right side bend, and that helps shallow the club. So for me, there's definitely a lateral squat, a tiny bit of right side reaction, and then there's the arm shapes moving, and kind of the gravity element of the club falling down at the same time. If the hands just fall completely down, we'll tend to get a little bit stuck. So it's kind of, as we get this right side movement, there's also a bit of rotation that pulls the handle out in front of us a little bit too. So again, I always talk over my videos about feeding what you need. So if you need the handle to go out more, you're probably going to need more rotation with the torso. If you need the handle to go down more, you're going to need more right side bend with the torso. And maybe a bit more patience. We're all eager to hit that ball. We're all eager to get back to that ball as quick as we can. And that's what happens, especially with right side dominant people like myself. So what we'd want to feel It's the top of the swing, take the right hand off, that left arm pronate and left wrist flex, right wrist go into that extension, then feel that we get that rotation of the torso back to square things up. That for me is the best way of feeling the shallowing element and the patience to stop rushing that downswing. Obviously, as we said earlier, if the backswing's in the wrong position, arm width and plane and tilts, it makes it hard. So quite often we have to work away from the problem to fix the problem. And that will give us more automatic response and an automatic fix. Maybe that's for another video. But certainly, shallowing the golf club in this transition phase allows us to get more natural reactions through impact to be successful and be consistent. The more we can get this club head to feel like it is further away from the ball, the further it has to travel, so the more speed it picks up. Also, when the club is here, we add more rotational torque to the swing, which then basically adds more speed. And generally speaking, when we swing more from the inside or from a shallower position, we have to close that face down, which then obviously delofts the club and makes it a stronger strike. All things that we would definitely want to encourage. So basically, as a golfer, you could feel you focus on any of these elements we just talked about. So the pronation of the arm, the flexion of the wrist, the extension of the trail wrist, and so on. You could feel anything. So, for me, I would make some swings trying the different things and see what really floats your boat the most. And even doing little things like this, trying to feel like your trail arm, the elbow moves towards the ball, the trail wrist moves away from the ball, almost like you're holding a tray of drinks there, but at the same time you do it, you're trying to stay in your tilt. And you might think, yeah, that's a strong move. That's a move that I've never felt before. And certainly it will test your ability to use that trail shoulder correctly and load that trail shoulder correctly and then work it. So that's definitely a good feel. So you can do these exercises again at home. You can do it with some tubing. You can do it using some walls. But just really get a feel for what we're trying to ask you to move and then see what you do from there, really. The hitting drill I would do to help encourage this shallowing action would be quite simply, if you take your setup, top of the swing, trail hand just comes off slightly, and we feel that lead wrist, the thumb, just point a little bit more behind our body and try not to let it go forward too much. So I would just make some slow swings. Just trying to do that. There's a chance you can hit some a little skinny, but what it will do is start to give you the pattern of movement that we want to get the right swing plane, to allow your body to rotate through the golf ball, present the shaft correctly to get that shaft lean, the contact, the ultimate control. And again, it's what we see all the best ball strikers do. There are outliners before people comment, say, well, such and such does it this way. Yeah, if it's matched up, and we want to hit a certain ball flight like a fade, or even shallow it later and time it, we can do it a different way. What I'm trying to do, certainly a lot with my videos and certainly with this particular video, is trying to share with you the best possible way to make you the most consistent version of you and improve how you move